Alright, so we are going to begin with a long tail cast on, which is one of my favorites because it gives you a nice stretchy cast on. So if you're making a hat, you can put it on your head, which is always a bonus. The only thing about the long tail cast on is that, as the name suggests, you need a long tail. The general rule of thumb is that you need a tail that's at least 3 times as long as the piece that you're knitting. So like if you're making an adult size hat, which is maybe roughly 20 inches in circumference, you're going to need at least 60 inches of yarn. I would usually add at least a foot to that because it's just not fun when you're almost done with your cast on and then you realize you don't have quite enough tail to finish your project and you have to either cast on again or add some more yarn, which is never ideal. So once you have your tail measured out and you're sure it's long enough, then we're going to do a simple slip knot to start this cast on. And then you can put that on your needle. The orientation is important at this point. You want your back yarn to be going to the ball and your front thread here to be going to your tail. Once you have it organized like that, you go ahead and take your forefinger and your thumb, insert them between the 2 strands, and then you can grab the 2 strands with your fingers and pull it tight. You need some tension to do the cast on because otherwise it just gets all goofy. So at this point, to cast on our first stitch, we're going to flip our fingers over. You may need to release a little tension to do that. And you will create a loop with the tail of your yarn here, and then you have this strand of yarn that goes back to the ball. So to cast on your stitch, you'll take your needle, insert it down and below the front strand of this loop, and then insert it up through there, and then back behind the yarn that goes back to the ball, and then you pull the whole thing back through the loop, back through the underside of the loop where you came in. And then you just release it from your thumb and pull it tight. You're going to want to make sure that you don't pull your stitches too close together here. It's better to space them out a little bit, although it's still a stretchier cast on than some others, so you can get away with a little bit of tension, but it's just something to pay attention to. So again, we're back to our original position here. This top yarn goes back to the ball, the bottom yarn goes to the tail. We've got it over both the thumb and the forefinger. Flip the hand, create this loop, take your needle, insert it down below the loop, and then up through it. Grab that yarn that goes back to the ball, pull it down through the loop. Let it go, pull it tight. Do it again. Get your fingers in that position again. Take your needle down, around, below this strand of yarn that goes to the tail, up through the loop, reach it back, grab that strand of yarn that goes back to the ball, pull it tight. This is definitely where you can create a little space between your stitches, is when you're pulling it tight. So just try and get them a little bit further apart. It'll be a bigger issue if you're knitting with a larger gauge yarn because then you can definitely get them too close together. So once again, down below, up and around, loop it around, and keep going. Give yourself a little bit of room there. And that is how you do the long tail cast on.